Hello and welcome back to another Orange Coast College Mathematics video. In this video we're going to talk about right triangles, and more in particular we're going to talk about special cases. So first off, we have two special cases that we're going to talk about. We have the 30, 60, 90 right triangle, and we have the 45, 45, 90 triangle. So like the name suggests, it's a right triangle, so one of our angles is going to be 90 degrees. Now, since triangles have 180 degrees between all three angles, that means the other two angles have to add up to 90. Now, in the 30, 60, 90 right triangle, one is 30 degrees and the other is 60. Now, when we have the 30, 60, 90 case, we're going to end up seeing that our smallest side is going to be equal to 1. Our second smallest side is going to be the square root of 3, which is about 1.7. And then our hypotenuse is going to be equal to 2. However, this is only the case when our smallest leg is equal to 1. What happens if our smallest leg is equal to 5, or 10, or 100? Well, we can come down here to the general case, where if we have that our smallest side is equal to n, we can actually see what all the other sides are equal to. It'll be the square root of 3 times n, and 2 times n. So, if we know what one of these sides are, we can always figure out the other ones, right? If I have 2n, I know what the hypotenuse is. All I have to do is divide that by 2, and I'll get my smallest side. Then once I have my smallest side, all I have to do is multiply that by the square root of 3. And then I have my other side. And so, this can be summed up by saying that my hypotenuse is 2 times the shortest leg, and the longer leg is going to be the square root of 3 times the shorter leg. So let's move on to the 45, 45, 90 right triangle. So again, we have a 90-degree angle, the other two angles have to add up to 90, and we have 45 degrees and 45 degrees. Now, since those two angles are the same, this is actually going to be an isosceles triangle, where two of the sides are going to be the same. So when our smallest leg is equal to 1, because it's isosceles, that means that the other one is also going to be equal to 1. Our hypotenuse will then be the square root of 2. But again, what happens for the general case where maybe my smallest side is not equal to 1, it's equal to 5 or 10? Well, we can treat that as just n, and because it's an isosceles triangle, these two sides are going to be the same. But the hypotenuse is going to be the square root of 2 times that smallest side length. So if I know that this one is 5, well then I know that this one is 5. And then I know that my hypotenuse is going to be the square root of 2 times 5. Or, if I know what my hypotenuse is, all I have to do is divide by the square root of 2, and I'll figure out what my smallest side is. So let's go ahead and try this out in practice. So let's move on to number 1. So number 1 says, find the remaining sides and round to the nearest hundredths. So first off, what kind of a triangle is this? Well, it's a right triangle. We've got that 90-degree angle. And then we say, all right, is it one of our special cases? Well, this angle right here is 30. And so that means the other angle has to be 60 degrees. So we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle, which is great. And now we say our smallest side is going to be equal to 3. Well, if I know that my smallest side is equal to 3, then I know that the longer leg is going to be the square root of 3 times 3. As in, we can just write 3 times the square root of 3. And then our hypotenuse is going to be 2 times 3. Well, 2 times 3 is just going to be 6. So we know that side A is equal to 3. We know that side B is equal to 3 times the square root of 3. And we know that C is equal to 6. Now, we're fine with A and C, but B is 3 times the square root of 3. So I want to know what that is in decimal form. So if we plug that into our calculator, we're going to get that B is approximately equal to 5.20. And so we have all of our sides. Let's try it with number 2. So number 2 says find the remaining sides and round to the nearest hundredths. So first off, we have a right triangle, and we see that this is 30 degrees. So our other angle has to be 60 degrees. And so we know that we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Now we notice that we have our hypotenuse being equal to 8. Since our hypotenuse is 2 times our smallest side, all we have to do is take 8 and divide by 2 to figure out our smallest side. So let's do that. So 8 divided by 2 is going to be 4. Now that we have our smallest side, we can figure out what this side is. And all we have to do is take our smallest side and multiply it by the square root of 3. So this becomes 4 times the square root of 3. So we've got that a is equal to 4 times the square root of 3, b is equal to 4, and c is equal to 8. Now, plugging this 4 times the square root of 3 into a calculator, we're going to get that a is approximately equal to 6.93. And so, we have all of our sides. So let's move on to number 3. So number 3 has the same instructions: find the remaining sides and then round to the nearest hundredths. So first off, let's notice what kind of a triangle this is. This triangle has a 90-degree angle, so it is a right triangle, and then we can see that we have a 45-degree angle and another 45-degree angle. So this is a 45, 45, 90. So we know that the two small sides are actually going to be the same. So since one of them is 5, we know that the other one has to be equal to 5 right away. Now, if you go back and check the formula, our hypotenuse is going to be the square root of 2 times our smallest side. So this is going to be 5 times the square root of 2. And so our sides are a equals 5, b is equal to 5, and then c is equal to 5 times the square root of 2. Now, plugging in 5 times the square root of 2 into our calculator, we're going to get that c is approximately equal to 7.07. And so we have all of our sides. So let's move on to our last problem. So for number 4, again, find the remaining sides and then round to the nearest hundredths. So first off, let's figure out what kind of a triangle we have. We have the 90-degree angle, and then we have the two 45s. So this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Now this time, we're actually given the hypotenuse. Now the hypotenuse is the square root of 2 times n. So if I want to figure out what my smaller sides are, I just have to take my hypotenuse and divide by the square root of 2. And we can even write it out in a formula. We have n times the square root of 2 is equal to 12. And so if we divide both sides by the square root of 2, we're going to get that n is equal to 12 over the square root of 2. Now, plugging that into our calculator, we're going to get that n is approximately equal to 8.49. And so the length of our smaller side is 8.49. But we know that both of these are the same, so they're both 8.49. So we can say that a is equal to 8.49, b is equal to 8.49, and c is equal to 12. And so we're done. We have all of our sides. So that's going to do it for this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.